right, so we are here celebrating National Distance Learning Week, specifically with Dr. Bethany Pletcher. We're going to talk a little bit about her experiences with digital learning and being the Digital Innovator of the Year this past year. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pletcher so she can give just a quick introduction of who she is, all the important stuff that you need to know before we start our conversation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bethany Pletcher, and I am an associate professor of reading education here at TAMU-CC. I'm in the College of Education, Human Development, and the Department of Curriculum, Instruction, and Learning Sciences. It's a mouthful. And this is my 9th year here at TAMU-CC, and I teach in the undergraduate reading program, the Master's of Reading program, and also in our PhD in Curriculum and Instruction program.
Awesome, thank you. And as I was listening to you give your wonderful introduction, I was like, maybe they want to know who I am. That might be important.
Yeah.
So I am Dr. Leila Kanti Lee. I'm the Director of Digital Learning and Academic Innovations, and I get to be your wonderful podcast style interview host. So with that, to get into the nitty gritty, we'll just start with our questions and probing your brain. So we want to start with, I mentioned in our quick little intro that you were the Digital Innovator of the Year last year. So we have 2 different Digital Innovators of the Year, one that is selected by faculty and one that is selected by students. And you won the student choice, the student nominated Digital Innovator of the Year award, which is extremely excited because students are the reasons we do what we do. And so to get nominated and kind of picked by them is a big deal. And so they mentioned a lot of your nominations mentioned this idea of a pilot that you did called bug in the ear technology. What is that? That's not literally like a fly in your ear, but I want to know a little bit about what is that? What does that mean? We were all very intrigued and we're like, what does this mean? So
yeah, and I didn't coin that term. I'm kind of working to change it. I'll talk a little bit about that too. But that's what it's traditionally been called. So we're always looking for ways to provide authentic, meaningful, in the moment coaching for our pre-service teachers. So before they go out into the field and do their what used to be called student teaching, it's now called clinical teaching. We want to provide them with experiences working with children. So one of our courses that they take is called Reading Assessment and Intervention. And part of the requirements for that course is that they work with a child. So for some of them, it's their first time ever sitting next to a child and listening to them read and working on reading strategies. For some of them, they may have children of their own, or they've worked in daycare or school settings as a para. So we provide these experiences for them, but we're kind of outnumbered because there are usually 25 of them and one instructor, maybe if you're lucky, a graduate assistant who's helping out as well. So it's always tricky to try to provide coaching and feedback for them because we're trying to, help them improve their practice, feel like a teacher, right? So pre-pandemic, when we had our face-to-face clinic, this usually consisted of us kind of pulling up to the table where the child and tutor were working and trying to do some coaching and feedback. It was always a little bit distracting for the child. I had a child the other day ask me, "What are you doing here?" So actually the pandemic, some of a couple of good things to come out of that were for a couple of years, we had to do our reading clinic over Zoom, which was very interesting with second graders, teaching over Zoom, but it really brought, there were a lot of advantages that we found. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I had heard of something called bug and ear coaching a few years ago when I was training to be a literacy coach in the schools, where someone in another location would provide some feedback in the moment coaching for the teacher who's in the classroom with the students. And the students couldn't hear that person. They could only hear their teacher. So, and I had never done it myself, never tried it, but that's just kind of the professor I am. I'm thinking, what can I do? What can I try? And who's going to be willing to help me try it? I've got to have a couple students out there who I can wrangle in and help me do it. So that's what we tried. So we were all at home, the tutor, the child, myself. And so Zoom offered us a perfect opportunity where I could call in to the tutor, feed some lines as the child's reading a text if they stumble across a word or something. And usually our tutors, they're new at this. They don't know what to say. They kind of freeze up and they don't know what to say to the kid when they get stuck. So
Right.
so I fed in prompts and lines to the tutor to help the child read. So, and it was nice because again, the child couldn't hear me, so it wasn't distracting to the child. And it's a take on the play Cyrano de Bergerac, right? So where Cyrano feeds, romantic poetry to his friend Christian as he attempts to woo his love interest Roxanne, right? So I've kind of shifted the Buccaneer language to, we're just calling it the Cyrano Project. That's what we've
Love
kind
it.
of named,
I love
calling
that.
it around here. So I jumped right in and tried it with 3 tutors. It worked very well because I thought, okay, this could just blow up in our faces and, then that's fine. We'll move on and we'll try something else. But it worked. It worked really well. Our students are back to tutoring face-to-face again this semester, and we weren't ready to try it full blown with all of our students that we have. So we're doing the face-to-face coaching again, but we're already seeing that, yeah, it's distracting and we need to continue to try this. So in the spring, we're going to try that out again using like a swivel camera and the Bluetooth technology again and see how it goes. So that's what they were referring to.
That sounds really, really cool, really awesome. Do you think that that really impacted their experiences because it gave them that maybe level of comfort or reassurance, or what do you think was the big factor where that really impacted their learning experience, the students?
Well, and it's interesting you asked that because and of course, if we're going to try anything around here, we always want to try to do some research around it, right? And at least do a pilot study and go through IRB and write it up and make something of it, which is what we did. So we just collected some data during that study and just recently wrote it up and sent it off to hopefully be published. We've been presenting it at conferences, but we my graduate assistants rather did a focus group interview with the 3 tutors who tried it. And so I can tell you some of the things they said. I jotted down a couple here. They actually described it. These are their words, which, like I said, I was surprised because I thought, oh man, this is gonna, not only are they working with children over Zoom, but I'm asking them to go above and beyond and do something really different. I'm going to freak them out. I didn't really know what was going to happen, but they said it was seamless, easy, and smooth. So that,
Nice.
that was good. At first, one of my students said she didn't know, how it was going to work with all this technology. And she was like, what have I gotten myself into, by agreeing to do this? But by the end, they were saying things like, that was good for us. And then it pushed us to get out of our boundaries and try something new, which was pretty cool. And I also they talked a lot about how they were able to take what they learned in their classes, just sitting in a university classroom, right, and hearing lectures or whatever, talking to peers, doing activities, but then actually applying that. So, they said we can't just read about something and then listen to how to do it. We have to get in there and try it.
Right.
And so that kind of gave them the push to do that, because then after the coaching sessions with the Cyrano coaching that we did, they were able to try out some of those prompts on their own, when I wasn't there with them. So that was really neat. These students also recently, actually on October 1st, we had our school partnerships conference here at the university, and 2 of the 3 students presented with me. I asked them to present with me on the project, and it was so exciting to see them up there, these pre-service teachers presenting to a large group of people, not something they're used to doing, and talking about their experiences with the coaching and how they enjoyed it. And one of them, this one tutor, because this was about a year ago, she was a little shy. She's very quiet. she got up there, and I mean, the way she stood and her confidence. I mean, I know it wasn't just me and my project, but just to see that was, it just gave me little goosebumps just sitting there watching her present. So yeah, I would say it definitely impacted them in a good way, which is why we want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing a lot of us like it's there and it is relevant, but we never think that the things that we're doing are not only like giving a good experience, we're empowering our students, and we don't even realize that at that moment that we're making the decision to move forward, or making the decision to do this new technology. And just when you said that, like she walked up there like, yes, like I feel like she felt empowered and she felt confident, and
Yes.
that's so awesome.
Yes, that's what it's all about. That's what I
Yeah,
want
for
to do.
sure.
I want them to leave here to feel empowered. That's a great word to describe it.
Awesome,
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome. Talking about technologies and doing the next best big thing. So you've taught a few years now. You're experienced. You
Uh-huh.
are experienced. Um, so we talked about bug in the ear, like you implementing that. What technologies or digital practices have you used or have you implemented that you found students really respond to, they really liked, whether it's really, really simple or you implemented this extreme, extravagant experience for them? Like, is there anything that kind of comes to mind for you say, that worked out really well and I'm glad I did that?
I would say a couple of things. First, I try to create a lot of videos for my students, and not just videos of me teaching or lectures or whatever, but videos of my, since I prepare teachers mostly teachers to work with young children, I've tried to create a lot of content, especially during the pandemic. I created a bunch, but even before then, videos of myself working out in schools, which I do very regularly, working with children. And I think that sharing those in class or putting them on Blackboard just as a reference or whatever, I think that has actually, I know it has, because I've heard their comments. I think it's given me some street cred with them. We always we want to learn things from somebody, if whatever we're going to be learning, that they also do themselves or have done
Yeah.
themselves. That's very, very important to me. And I talk about that quite a bit.
Mm.
But I think they enjoy, seeing one of their professors walk the walk, right? Like,
Mm.
okay, so then when I'm in class and she's telling me about all these strategies, she's doing them herself. She's tried them herself. I've seen her videos,
Right.
So I think the videos has definitely been a wonderful way. And it's just that's how, a lot of us, that's what we do. We go to YouTube when we want to learn how to do something, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's really cool that you offer that. I think the hardest part of being a student is starting starting something, but then those thoughts afterwards is, I hope I'm doing this right. Am I doing this right? And you're giving
Yes,
them that little security blanket that can show them specifically like this is the right, you're doing it
yeah,
right. And so that's awesome. Have
exactly.
there been
Exactly.
any have there been any uglies like things that you tried to implement or use that just did not work out?
I think it just kind of depends. I definitely, I have some go-tos. I like to use Nearpod, Kahoot, Padlet, things like that. Sometimes they work really well and sometimes they fall flat. I think it really depends on, and it's the same thing I tell them when they're working with children in classrooms. It's like, keep it novel, so some things we've kind of done over and over. And so I think overuse
Yeah.
can bomb, right? If they've seen it like 100 times, right? Um, so I think just keeping things novel and exciting for
Yeah.
them is the best way to go. Yeah.
Talking about overuse, that's a good segue. Um, when so you're talking about overuse and like trying to keep a diverse set of digital tools, regardless of that, like of this idea of overuse or like not trying to use something over and over. Is there one thing that you just cannot go without? Like this is your thing, like you need this. Like aside from like, okay, you're offering videos, but in regards to like you're in active teaching mode, like I need this with me. I need this tool, I need this program, like something that you, regardless of what you're doing, how you're implementing it, that is always your constant.
I can't think of one particular tool that I need. I always do like to have some sort of presentation or something. And usually I tell students, this is mainly for me. This is, I'll post this on Blackboard, but this is really to keep me focused and keep us going, right? Whether, whether it's a Nearpod or something to, so other than that, I don't really have one, one particular go-to. I try to kind of vary it up and use different things and learn from them as well. That was one great thing about our virtual reading clinic for 2 years, was that they brought in other things that they could use, not only just for us in the classroom, but for to use for their children as well, right, in their lessons. So, I'm always looking for something that I can model and use for them, and that they'll eventually, hopefully, use with their future students. But I've gotten a ton of ideas from my students, especially some of my master's and doctoral students. Like through our online courses, I encourage them to be creative and use different tools to create presentations, infographics, etc., narrated presentations, all those kinds of things.
Awesome. So it's clear you're extremely passionate about your students, about their experience, about how you're helping set them up for their future. So with that said, how do you hope that your work with them, the digital strategies that you choose, the tools that you choose to implement, pretty much the experience that you're giving them, how do you hope that is preparing them for their future careers, for their future selves even? So very philosophical, I know, I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah, we all, it's being a teacher educator, we're not only, that's where our classes are typically fun as well, right? Because we're not only, using these tools in the classroom for them, I usually make it very explicit. I'll say, hey, we're also using this so that, I'm modeling it for you so that you can then take it into a classroom with 6-year-olds or 10-year-olds or middle schoolers, whatever, whoever your student population is going to be, and use that technology as well, right? So that's how, one way I'm helping them prepare for what they do. We also talk a lot about how not to use digital or some of the disadvantages.
That's important.
Yeah, we need a balance, right? So, for example, right now, the very hot trend for assessing young children's reading, and I'm talking even kindergarten first graders, is to put them on a computer and they answer some questions, look at some things, respond to some things, and it spits out here's where they are, here's their reading level. And to me, that's fine. That will give you some information, but you also have to have the, a human element, even if they're reading from a digital text, you need to listen to them read. So we talk about that too. And I definitely think that that impacts them as well. But again, I think the pandemic definitely taught them to not fear use so much. So
awesome.
Yeah.
We love the pandemic for that. And that only.
That reason only, yes.
So we're hoping, or we're putting this out for faculty consumption. So a lot of our audience will likely be faculty members. So with that, do you have any big secrets or tips that you have for your fellow faculty members when they're looking at ideas or looking at these big dreams maybe that they have to incorporate digitally diverse technologies, or thinking about innovation in their classroom, innovation in their teaching? Like, do you have any tips, any tricks, any growing pain things that they need to think about, or they should consider, or Yeah,
I have a couple things. The first one is I would kind of talk about the Blackboard discussion forum thing, right? Because I know that's kind of come up a lot over the years, and I've seen it work really well in some of my classes and then not so well. And then students heard around, students complain about them. So I think there are ways to make it work really well. I've found that if they're done correctly, and what I mean by correctly is like, when they're assigned to a discussion forum, they have to be encouraged, right, to read one another's responses. I think if the course is larger than 10, I usually try to break my students into small groups, because that way it's not so overwhelming. So they get in there and like, I can't respond to 15 people. I don't know who to respond to. And then some people never get their stuff responded to, right? So I also, the other thing that I've found is that works very well for me, at least in I'm talking about my online courses, my remote courses where we're totally online, is that I have to be active in those forums and not respond in a way like I'm grading their work, because that's for them.
Right.
I can grade it separately and the grading system, but just responding as a peer almost, like, hey, have you thought about this? Oh, that's wonderful that you're trying this in your classroom. So I think there are ways to make it work to where it's not like, oh, I have to respond to to a discussion forum thread. So I think that's one thing that has been on my mind over the years. I like to use it because I think it's good, because I think the students do need to talk with one another in some way, even if they live in different places, whatever, they need to have that communication piece, or else they're just going to feel like they're kind of floating around out there in the course by themselves. Right. And that's not good. So that's one thing. And then I would say the other thing is to tap into what students are learning about, digital innovation. They're obviously using it a lot, whether it's, I don't know what the latest thing, there's always something, the latest thing, right? Whatever the latest, social media, TikTok, whatever it is they're using, I would encourage faculty to tap into their learning, because a lot of our students are proficient at using those tools, and we should use that to our advantage, right? And help them use their powers for good.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, for learning new things and sharing information. I also I believe and again, this is the same with children in the classroom. I think we need to allow our students to express themselves and represent their learning in lots of different ways. Just for example, I despise tests. I haven't given a test in an undergraduate course, and I can't remember when, because I don't believe in them. I don't like them. I don't like to see first graders taking tests all the time. So why would I encourage that in my classroom, right? So I think there are many, many other ways they can demonstrate their learning. I've told them, I don't care if you do a dance to demonstrate what you learned in class with, there are so many other ways, whether it's a song or a play or a little infographic or a commercial video that you're going to something. And they are super creative. I mean, I've had some students do some pretty amazing stuff, through video and everything. And I think just we need to kind of get away from things that are just easy to slap a grade on, like a paper pencil test. And I always I teach a course every other summer called Curriculum Theory, and we study the work of Elliot Eisner. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his work, but very much about like the art of teaching. And even though his work was done a lot, before a lot of digital innovation, I think it really applies. And one thing he said was, the ultimate aim of education is to enable individuals to become the architects of their own education, and through that process to continually reinvent themselves. And I just love that, because yes, we're the instructor, professor, whatever, but I'm not in charge of their learning. They are, right? I'm just here to help them along on that journey, but they really need to decide what that journey is going to look like. And I love the reinventing themselves idea. I think that's really hard to do when you're just giving them pencil and paper tasks all
Yeah, for sure. Uh, I love that quote so much. I feel like I want to slap it on a t-shirt or something. Put it
Yes,
on
it
a
probably
poster.
already is somewhere, but his
Has to
work is
be.
great. Yeah, love reading his stuff. Yeah.
That's good. That's really like, that's like a punch or like a super impactful. Like,
Yeah.
whew, that one got me good. I wrote it down. I tried to write down a little bit so I could look it up later.
I'll send it to you. I'll
Um,
send it
okay,
to
awesome.
you.
All right, so I feel like you gave us really, really good insight, really good tips for not only for students, not only for students who want to be teachers, but for our faculty members. I think a lot of times we get overwhelmed with the idea of digital strategies, with innovation, because those things are could be so big, like in your brain. Like
Yeah.
if you Googled one of those things, there's too much. It's a lot. And just seeing a really good example through you, through your teachings, through what you're doing, how your students are reacting. I feel like this is a really good and beneficial way for us as a support system and for faculty who are trying to do these things in the future. I feel like this is really beneficial and it's going to really be helpful to at least get things rolling for some. So thank you for talking with us and answering our questions and kind of really getting into the weeds with a lot of these things and being as candid as possible. I think that's really important too. So we're really thankful for that and appreciate you being willing to do that for us. And it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt that you were our Digital Innovator of the Year. I have to keep putting that out there because it's awesome. Um, also need to thank Lauren. Lauren, thank you for moderating and making sure we're rolling the way we needed to and everything was working the way it should. We appreciate you as well. But with that, if you are a faculty member listening to this, I'm pretty sure, or watching this, pretty sure you know how to find all of us in this session. You know what our emails are. So if you have any questions or you want to talk through anything just a little bit more, feel free to reach out to any one of us. We would be happy to answer any questions or direct questions where they need to go to help with ideas, to help with planning, to help with anything support. We are here for you. Again, Dr. Pletcher, thank you for supporting us, for supporting digital learning, and for creating just a really quality experience for TAMU-CC.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciated the opportunity to chat with you today.